Well, in this week's Fed Speak, we heard from two Fed governors. We heard from the presidents of the Dallas and the president of the Boston Federal Reserve Bank. The headline from both of them, more stimulus, please. And joining us now to discuss, Scott Garliss, the editor of the Stansberry NewsWire and our resident Fed watcher. Scott, welcome back.
Thank you. I don't know if being resident Fed watcher is good or not. It definitely makes for boring sometimes.
I think for our audience, it's definitely good, but I know that sometimes it puts you to sleep. So at the same time, you are getting good rest. We are getting good information. So let's begin with this quote from the Dallas Fed president, Robert Kaplan, speaking on Wednesday. He spoke at a Bloomberg event, and here's what he said, quote, "We can't tell how much savings is left for people who've lost their jobs from fiscal stimulus running out, but it's going to run out. And if we don't renew it, we'll see a drop off in household income and consumer spending." Is Kaplan essentially saying there that it's just hard to know where and when stimulus will run out, so we should just get so much stimulus into the system as soon as possible?
Basically, yeah. I mean, he's laying the groundwork, right? He's trying to push, and what we've seen from the other Fed governors, Powell in particular, is they are trying to push Congress to do more fiscal stimulus, right? There are a lot of moving parts there right now, as we know. Is the GOP going to control the Senate come January 6th? But there's impetus to do something. It's a matter of size. And I think what the Fed is telling the governors, they need to do more and they need to do bigger.
So this is not a pledge from Fed governors to say we are going to do more stimulus. It's a request to Congress to do more, correct?
Well, it is a request to Congress. It's not a pledge, but what I think it is it's a hint. And they're saying, look, guys, if you're not going to do something, we are. And what Kaplan is alluding to is the Fed is trying to get new messaging out there, and Kaplan is alluding to is like, hey, we're prepared to do more, and there's a good chance it's coming. And when it's going to come is the December meeting.
So this week we also heard from Boston Fed President Eric Rosengren. He spoke at the UBS European Virtual Conference, and he said that the next two quarters, I believe he means Q4 and Q1 of 2021, are going to be, quote, very challenging. He also said, and I found this really interesting, quote, "Excessive risk taking before the shock occurred is likely to have prolonged the economic distress that we are facing right now." If we consider that we did have a fairly credit-driven recovery over the last 10 years from the last downturn in the last recession, is he saying that we need to be having a stronger recovery this time because we already had a fragile recovery and that makes it tougher each time to recover holistically?
What he's pushing for there is, hey, federal government, you need to listen up. You need to do more to help these people out so that if we do have to lock down, people have money in their bank accounts so they can make it through to the other side of this. And the Fed is going to step in if they don't.
So is it a tacit acknowledgement, though, when he says that the Fed can't do it all? I mean, we've heard Powell say previously that the Federal Reserve has only so many tools in its toolbox. It can't put money in literally in people's pockets the way Congress can. And we also know that what the Federal Reserve is doing with pumping out more money is devaluing the dollar. So there is sort of an unspoken inflation rate that's going on. Each dollar that people are earning, if they're working, is buying them less. Which is not the recipe for a strong recovery. Is that part of what he's trying to express too, is that without congressional stimulus, we won't have a strong recovery?
Yeah, I think he's saying, look, it would be much stronger if Congress steps in and does their part. And I think also what these guys are worried about is like, let's not give up now. We can sort of see the finish line, right? We're getting these great vaccine trial results that are coming in. Let's get it together. Let's get some more stimulus. The Fed's going to keep doing its part. And the Fed is probably going to introduce more stimulus into the economy in December. And let's make sure that when this recovery really gets going, that it's going to be super strong, and we're not going to have to play this metronome game like you were alluding to earlier down the road.
Do you have any idea what kind of Fed stimulus to expect out of the December meeting?
They're going to do more purchases of treasuries and mortgage-backed securities because what they don't want to see interest rates take off.
So what are we going to see in terms of tangible impact for consumers and people like you and me in terms of what we can and can't do financially if in fact the Fed Reserve makes the decisions you're talking about with respect to Treasury purchases?
In terms of what it does for, say, your pocketbook or my pocketbook, yes, it could they make things a little more expensive. It could drive the cost of living up a little bit. I think right now what we want to see, though, is we want to see that people that have gained their jobs back can keep those jobs, and that we have a path forward to recover more jobs. Because without that, everything falls apart. And let's hope the worst doesn't happen.
All right, Scott Garliss translating some Federal Reserve speak to us. So interesting because they are really out in force every week. It just about seems someone from the Federal Reserve System is speaking on policy. So we are looking forward to more opportunities to have you evaluate how to interpret this in the future. Our thanks to you, Scott Garliss of the Stansberry NewsWire. And if you'd like to catch up with any more Stansberry research content, please take a look at all of these social media platforms where you can find us. That's all for now. Thanks for watching. I'm Jessica Stone.